So moving on to characters then. With the inspector, if we want to look at some of the things for him, obviously we've got the timing of his entrance. That's really important because he breaks off Burling's speech, which was representative of him breaking down the kind of capitalist idea. His manner, very kind of brisk, very to the point, doesn't kind of fumble around and, kind of pander to Burling's name dropping, etc. He's very unique in his way, again, and the others notice that, so again, you can highlight it. He's abrasive, he'll just kind of get the job done. He doesn't care who he pleases or doesn't please, and he rushes them, moving them forward. So we get this sense from the inspector that time is really important, and in fact that should be one of the themes as well, kind of the idea of time and how things change over time, etc. But he rushes them, and in doing so, he tries to get them to a conclusion. He tries to bring about their redemption or their judgment day a lot earlier than it would be. And again, that's kind of like what a kind of preacher figure does. And again, like one of the things about Priestley you've really got to get is that he's the inspector. He's Priestley's mouthpiece. This is kind of like if Priestley could be in the play. If Priestley could be in the play, he'd be a lot more, he'd be the actual inspector. He'd be getting across things as the inspector. With regards to Mr. Burling, then, he's got the stereotype of being kind of an upper class man, proud of himself, what he's going to do. He's arrogant. Is he protective of his family when he wants to protect them from scandal, or is that protective of himself? Is he kind of protective as well of his reputation? I mean, is that a good thing? Is it because he has to at that level of society? You can question that, but obviously, I think in a more kind of, he's kind of shown his true colours. So I think it can be argued, but it will definitely be an argue for the sake of arguing, rather than actually fully believing that yes, he is a protective and caring father, especially with the revelations we find out about his son. He name drops. He likes to actually try and get things through. He likes to actually show who he's connected to, what he's done, and obviously he kind of drops the idea of a knighthood in as well. Does he see the error of his ways? Well, to what extent, even if he does? So again, you can kind of mention that there's this glimmer of redemption open for him, but then obviously he kind of poo-poos it himself. His money and power and influence, all that's really, really important to him. There's several points where you can say that, especially when he tries to fix the problem with money. His reputation is something, again, he's very proud of, and he expects the respect, and that's one thing that's really important here. I mean, just because he is of a higher class, the inspector should, treat him with a certain level of respect. If we were reading this and the inspector was speaking such a way to someone of a lower class, maybe the expectation would that, well, he doesn't deserve, the person of a lower class doesn't deserve to be spoken to any differently. But here, Burling's got this idea that he should be spoken to in a manner fitting of who he is. So again, that's kind of the differences in society really being put there. And there's kind of a whole visage, like his whole life, it looks good, and, he's there celebrating this engagement, and, he's got the business, but what is he really doing? He's running slave labor. He's whoring his daughter out to a family with more money. He knows nothing of his son, and even his wife's not really supremely proud of him, or at least his family aren't enough. His in-laws aren't even proud enough to come to their engagement. I mean, there's a real visage in his life. He thinks it looks a certain way, but well, you could say mirage even. He thinks it looks a certain way, but then obviously it's not. And unfortunately, obviously, he returns to his old ways until the second phone call comes. Then obviously, I think it's brilliant, like kind of left there just for us to think about what he would do, what he's going to do now when the real inspector comes. So Mrs. Burling, she thinks highly of herself. She thinks her reputation is all, and I put those slightly differently because that's kind of like what she thinks of. She thinks highly of herself, and then she kind of acts as if her reputation is all. And there's nuances here. And obviously, you could say proud is again like, well, they sound all the same, but it's not really that. I mean, it's like this is kind of like the level of expectation she has for someone of her standing. This is the way she believes she should be. But then in that again, she's proud of some of those elements, perhaps more to a point, like obviously the safeguarding, quote unquote, of the name when Eva uses it at the end. She has a high society attitude stuff. She says, you shouldn't say things to the cook. She mentioned something like that at the beginning. And even in a kind of like, this women's group that she set up, I mean, is it just so they can kind of have, again, the mirage or the visage of actually showing people how they're going to help society and what they're going to do, or is it like she actually genuinely wants to help? Who knows? She doesn't know her children. She doesn't know that Eric drinks, etc. And she tries to belittle Sheila and just saying like, your husband's going to cheat on you, deal with it, that's fine. And I think she's got the most terrible action at the end, where she actually, that she was set up for it, when she kind of just like dooms Eva to having no help, from being here. I mean, obviously you can say like, well, if each of them had known what the other had done, then obviously they'd be more likely to help. But I think especially in her case where, you can you can forgive some other people. Obviously, I don't think you can forgive Eric, but you can forgive kind of Sheila in a way. Just say, look, she was having a bad day. All people kind of give a cut or something in a bad day. Maybe not to that extent. And Mr. Burling, he's a factory owner. He just wants to make money. So anyone causing trouble in reducing his profits, you can understand. But here in this this place where she's set up theoretically just to help people, and then she turns someone who's in desperate need of help away on such a small thing. Obviously, that's probably the most terrible one. And obviously, there's the irony of her demanding punishment for the person who got the girl pregnant, etc. It got Eva, pregnant, and obviously her tune changes when she finds out it's Eric.